Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad you joined us. My name is Caroline Cannon, and I want to welcome everyone to the virtual Lunch and Learn series with our Susan Salka with Amn Healthcare. She is the CEO, and Amn Healthcare partners and supports JA areas throughout the country. Today, we have two JA areas who've combined our efforts, JA San Diego and JA of Dallas, who have combined our efforts with Amn Healthcare to present this Lunch and Learn series to you today. But before we get started, I do want to say thanks to all of the students who have joined us and to Amn employees for taking time out of your day as well. As we learn more about Susan's career path, I'm going to ask the students that if you have a question, feel free to put those off in the chat or in the Q&A, and we will answer your questions towards the end. So with that being said, I want to introduce Susan, and she's going to start off the conversation by introducing herself and telling us about, what you do and why you choose to do it.
Great. Thanks so much for having me here and inviting AMN to be a part of the great work that you do every single day. We're always thrilled to collaborate with you, and it's such an honor to get to meet our amazing students out there. I'm already seeing in the chat, we've got students from Hoover High, Sunset High. Love to see more names pop up as we go on. For me, this is particularly an honor because I know that so many of you today are thinking about your future and what you might consider pursuing as a passion and a path for your career. And believe it or not, as old as I am, I remember being in your shoes and how exciting, but also daunting it was at times, because there are so many opportunities, certainly far more for you today than there were for me. But the reality is you could really pursue anything and everything you want. And so that's exciting, and love to be a part of any way I can be helpful. So first, a little bit about Amn Healthcare. We are the largest healthcare staffing and workforce solutions partner in the US. We also do have some operations and recruit from outside the United States, but primarily we help find the right healthcare professional to be in the right place at the right time to ensure that our clients can deliver excellent patient care. And certainly that's always important, but today, living in this pandemic, it is more important than ever. I don't know if any of you have ever had a loved one in the hospital or being cared for at home or in another care setting, and if so, my heart goes out to you because I know what that feels like. But if you did, you also share, I'm sure, in my admiration in those healthcare professionals that make all the difference in the world. And so at AMN, we really take pride in ensuring we're doing our part as part of the overall healthcare ecosystem to ensure that the workforce is where and when it's needed most. Internally at AMN, our purpose is helping achieve personal and professional goals every single day. We do that through our work by helping healthcare professionals take care of patients. We help our clients pursue their goals by helping deliver great patient care. But we also start right at home within our own organization by helping our colleagues to pursue their personal and professional goals. I've been blessed to be a part of AMN for over 30 years now. And along the way, I've had the good fortune of getting to know so many amazing colleagues, many of who I think are even watching today. And those colleagues have been pursuing their professional careers, but also along the way living their dreams personally, getting married, having children, buying their first house, all kinds of things that really fulfill their lives. And we're really fortunate at AMN that we have a culture and an environment where we're there for each other, supporting one another. So as CEO of AMN, I am responsible for setting the strategy for the organization, ensuring that we do have the right talent within the team, and really, most importantly, creating a culture for our team members to do their best work. We have a little over 3,000 corporate team members and usually about 10,000 healthcare professionals working out in the field on any given day. And so our job is difficult and complex on any given day, but our team does an incredible job of delivering. And it's not just because of their talent, but it's also because of their passion and what's in their heart. So that's just a little introduction about AMN, who we are, my role with the company, and I'll turn it back to you, Carolyn, to see where you'd like to go from here.
Sure. That's awesome about AMN. Sounds like a great place to work. But let's take it back a little bit. When you were in school, what did you want to be when you were in middle or high school, and how does that connect to where you are today?
Yeah, I was really fortunate. I grew up in a little town in Nebraska. In fact, there were only 12 people in my high school graduating class. I'm pretty sure most of you listening have larger graduating classes than that. But even though we were a small school, we had some really amazing instructors. And one of my favorites was our business teacher. And business for us back then meant everything from a little bit of business law to learning how to type. We didn't have computers, we had typewriters, but we also learned this really interesting thing called accounting. And it really ignited a passion in me for numbers and accounting. And so since I was in about 8th grade, I had this vision of wanting to be an accountant. And so when I went to college, I pursued a degree in accounting, but then I also fell in love with economics along the way. So I ended up getting actually a dual major in accounting and economics. And while my job has taken me in other directions, I have to say that love of numbers and finance and accounting and how it all comes together has definitely benefited me. I think it's actually a really good foundation for almost any job you pursue. Even personally, it's a good foundation for your own personal finances.
Thank you. Well, you took me back when you said typewriters. But the great thing is that you found your passion way back when you talk about economics and accounting and numbers. So the next question I want to ask you is, what did you learn from your first job? Was it positive or negative?
Well, my very first job was actually washing dishes at the Hungry Horse Saloon when I was 12 years old. And I'm not sure it was even legal to hire a 12-year-old to do that back then, but I loved it because it enabled me to work in an environment with other people, a team, and serve people in a wonderful way and trying to create an experience for people coming into the cafe part of the Hungry Horse Saloon. And I still even say today that being a waiter or server or working in the hospitality industry is fabulous training ground for almost anything you'll do in life, because it teaches you customer service, it teaches you how to juggle, certainly it teaches hard work. And even though it wasn't what I ultimately pursued long term, I really do think it gave me a wonderful foundation for how to serve people and creating a great experience for others. Then when I graduated college, my first job out of college was as an auditor for the Department of Revenue in Nebraska. This was not a glamour job. It was not my dream job, but it gave me wonderful experience and exposure to many different companies and organizations and how they kept their books and how they ran their business. And so in that way, it really opened my eyes to what business could look like and what it meant, because otherwise I grew up as a butcher's daughter in this little town of 100 people. I didn't even know what a company really looked like. So it gave me an insight into what small, medium, and large companies could actually look like.
Great, thank you. That's awesome. So what advice would you give to your younger self if you could do your career path over again? Is there any advice that you would say to Susan?
Well, again, I've been really fortunate to be able to be with AMN for over 30 years now. And so I've been lucky to be able to evolve and learn and develop and kind of grow up within a business that was evolving itself. Probably if I were to rewind, the thing that I would have done differently is to get more involved in the community early on. It's another really important part of AMN's culture, and something I personally love is being a part of our local communities and getting involved in fabulous organizations like Junior Achievement. But I was a little later to the party on that. I really didn't start to get as involved as we are today until I was probably in my late 30s. And I could kick myself because I missed out on the ability as a younger person to be involved in things in my community. And I do think it takes both more mature, experienced individuals, as well as our young, both high school, college age, post-college, and multiple generations coming together to help serve and evolve our communities. So that would have been my advice of what I would have done differently. What I'm glad I did do, though, within the work environment is I kept raising my hand for things that needed to be done. And even if it wasn't something I knew how to do, if there was a need for someone to help or to jump in to do a job, I would be the person to say, oh, I'll do that. I can help. I'll put in the extra effort. And that really helped me learn so much along the way. And it wasn't just at AMN, it was at my prior jobs as well. By offering to help in areas outside of maybe your core expertise, it opens your eyes, and it also just helps you learn beyond what might be your otherwise core competency.
Great, thank you. I was sitting here thinking, is there anything that you would say is unique to consider if students want to enter into your career field? Is there anything that you would tell them to think about?
Yes, and I think this is true for perhaps any career you choose that you want to be serious about, that you want to excel at, and that is that you need to have a sincere passion in your heart for the work that you're going to be doing and the impact that it makes. Ideally, it means something more than just a job to you. It means that you can make a difference in the world. And if it is that kind of a purposeful passion, one, you're going to love it so much more. You're probably going to excel because you're going to be pouring yourself into it and want to learn more and develop. And you're going to want to also help make everybody around you better because you're all sharing in the same purpose and passion. And so I'd say be careful not to choose something that just has a better paycheck. Certainly, it's good to make a nice living and to be able to support yourself and your family and to also use your resources to help others. But if you're not enjoying what you're doing every day, and if it's not a passion for you, then you're probably going to get tired of it over time. Within the staffing industry and within healthcare in general, we innately are here because we want to help people. In our case, we want to help clinicians and healthcare providers to deliver great patient care. And we feel that sense of purpose and passion every day. And you need that because it's hard work. It takes a lot of not only time, it takes a lot of energy, both mentally and physically. And so you really have to have it in your heart and have that passion. Otherwise, you're going to get tired really quickly.
Well, and you know what, that's a great transition to my next question, because obviously you're in staffing, you do a lot of hiring. What do you look for when you hire someone?
So first, looking for individuals that will be additive to the values of the organization and to our culture. It's really, really important. There are different kinds of company cultures out there. And, there's not always a right and a wrong, but there is a culture that probably is going to bring out the best in you. And we want team members to join us that will bring out the best in us. And so matching the values and behaviors of individuals coming into the organization is probably job one, to make sure that when they join, that they, again, are additive to our values. Now, we also want diversity. We want diversity of experience, of opinions. Diversity comes in many different shapes, colors, and sizes and backgrounds. And that makes us, I think, a healthier, more vibrant organization. Also, it makes us, more diverse in our decision making because we have more diverse insights within the organization. So individuals that aren't necessarily bringing just a cookie cutter approach to things, but are actually bringing in diverse, unique ideas is very, very important. And then you have some of the basics, which would be hardworking, wanting to be accountable for your own performance and deliverables, but also wanting to help your team be accountable to perform and being about the team and the purpose and not just about your own advancement. Ideally, the two go hand in hand. If the team is performing and advancing, then you are advancing along with it. So looking for that mindset of an individual, are they all about themselves? Or are they about the team and the mission and the purpose of what we're trying to achieve? There are always things for us to learn, myself included. So while we're always looking for some amount of experience or education or something that person can bring to the table, we're more looking for someone who has the aptitude to learn more and the desire to learn more along the way.
That is great. So Susan, you kind of already touched on my next question, which would have been, what tips do you have about successful job hunting? So I want you to make it personal. Have you had any unsuccessful job hunting experiences? And what did you learn from that?
Absolutely. When I was in my early 20s, I mentioned that I grew up in Nebraska, and my first job out of college was with the Department of Revenue in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I decided that I wanted to explore something outside of Nebraska and explore the world of business. I didn't even know what that meant, but I knew there was probably something more out there. And so I made a very risky move. I was 21 years old at the time. And I quit my job at the Department of Revenue and drove my little car halfway across country to San Diego. My parents had friends in San Diego. And so I could sleep on their couch and look for a job. And again, this was like pre-cell phone, pre-internet. So you would go to the newspaper and you would apply for a job, and then you would wait by the mailbox or the phone that hung on the wall with a cord, and you would hope somebody sent you a letter or a phone call that invited you to come in for an interview. I didn't get anything. I waited and I waited and I waited. And 3 weeks went by, and I hadn't gotten any interest from the resumes that I hand delivered and that I mailed out. And I thought, oh my goodness, I've just made a huge mistake. I drove halfway across country. I don't have a job. I'd never been without a job since I was 12 years old. I had always worked. But I persevered, And then at one point, I finally got a phone call and went in for the interview. And you can believe I gave it all I got in terms of that interview, because it was the only interview I had. And it was either that or pack my car and go back to Nebraska. Fortunately, I got hired for that job. So, I guess my advice in all of that is don't get discouraged if you don't immediately get that first job you interview for, or if you're not getting phone calls, or I guess these days emails or texts for interviews. You can be patient. Might be you need to do something else in the meantime to pay the bills, but continue to persevere, and the right opportunity will be presented to you. And even if it's not your dream job, remember my auditing job I mentioned? That was not my dream job, but it was a good job that helped me learn and develop. It paid the bills, and that became a stepping stone to my next job once I moved to San Diego. They actually really liked the idea that I had this tax auditing experience. And so lo and behold, that job I didn't really want out of college became very valuable to me. So I do believe that there are typically reasons for things to happen, and every opportunity is a learning opportunity.
Thank you. So to sum that up, it's don't give up, students. You don't give up.
Yes.
So Susan, let's talk about present day and where you are now at Amn Healthcare. What does your day-to-day work look like?
We have, as I mentioned, an amazing team of about 3,000 corporate colleagues that I work with around the country. And up until March, we were in offices working together. I'm here in the Dallas office, but I used to be in the San Diego office, and most of us thrive off of that interaction with one another. And so I would get into the office and kind of hit the ground running, chatting with folks. Yes, I was in meetings, I was on phone calls, but the favorite moments that I would have are when I could have those impromptu conversations with people in the hallways, or, by the microwave, or wherever. Today, it's all virtual because we're all working from home. So we've had to learn how to take our in-office, very engaging, people-centric culture and bring it to a virtual environment. So my day starts on Zoom, or in our case, we use Teams meetings, and immediately usually jumping into different meetings or dialogue with team members. Today, as an example, I had a wonderful connecting meeting with some of our colleagues in our Florida office. Well, they're all working from home, but I had a great meeting with them and our chief talent officer to just connect and learn what's on their mind, what questions they have, what concerns they have, what ideas they have. So I try to make sure that in between the planning meetings and the decision-making meetings, I always have time to engage with team members, just to listen as well and hear what's on their mind. I know that in some ways I'm at a disadvantage because I'm CEO, and things get filtered up through me, and I only hear and see so much. And so the vantage point of our team members across the company in different roles, even those individuals that just joined us in the last few weeks, even new graduates that have just joined us, have such valuable insights that I want to make sure I'm able to tap into those as well. So I find ways to connect with team members on pretty much a daily basis, to listen in, to hear what's on their mind, and also to answer their questions and make sure they have a direct connection to me if they need it.
Yes. So tell me a little bit about you as a woman in leadership, a female in this role. How has that been for you?
So, we have, my husband and I together have 8 children. They're, of course, grown and in their 20s and 30s now. And that includes sort of, we're a blended family, sort of his, hers, and then some adopted children. And so as you can imagine, our household through the years was pretty crazy. And juggling the priorities and the needs of our family, of our relationship, And then even my own, need to take care of myself and stay healthy and well is something that is a daily juggling act. I think if you want to pursue multiple things, like even engaging in the community, you have to be willing to lay it all out there every day. And yes, that makes it a little more tiring and a little more frustrating. And on most days, I probably felt like I didn't do enough. I could have been better at this, or I could have done more of that, or I, let myself down here, or somebody down there. But that's why there's tomorrow, right? There's always an opportunity to lean in and to do more and to, reprioritize tomorrow to some degree. Now, you mentioned as a female leader, fortunately today, things are evolving. You can imagine when I became a leader, 20, 25 years ago, and then became CEO 15 years ago, there weren't many female leaders. Fortunately, at AMN, we have always had an excellent track record of gender equality. In fact, over half of our team members are women, over half of our leaders are women, and I'm very proud of that. It's part of our culture and who we are, but not every company is that way. I think there's progress being made, but there still needs to be greater attention to ensuring that women have equal opportunities to rise up into leadership roles. AMN is a public company, and in fact, we're one of the top 1,000 public companies in the US on the New York Stock Exchange. And there are only, I think last I counted, 62 female CEOs out of the 1,000. 62, I'm one of them. So you think about how much further we have to go to ensure there's better female representation amongst companies. One of the things I think companies needs to do are they need to really be more flexible with women, with all team members to some degree, but women in particular often are needing to move in and out of the workforce, either completely move out or move out part-time because they started a family at home. I had that happen when I adopted my first two children, and I wanted to stop working full-time and go part-time. And I was really fortunate that AMN allowed and enabled me to do that. And so that's why today we try very hard to be flexible with our team members, to meet them where they are in their journey and the phases in their life, because I know it will engender loyalty. It's just the right thing to do too, by the way, but it will engender loyalty, and hopefully then those amazing team members and leaders will stay with us longer term, because we've been able to flex with them as they might have different life events that happen along the way.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan. That's great. So when you have a decision or a problem or a challenge at work, how do you go about solving it?
Well, the best way is to first get input and team members and colleagues involved to make sure that we have different insights, varied insights from different vantage points. For me, as CEO, to kind of sit in a room by myself and try to solve something is going to be very short-sighted, and we won't have the best outcome by far. So really important that you get multiple individuals, not all at the top level either. Ideally, individuals from different levels, different parts of the organization who can contribute to insights that will help us understand the problem or the opportunity. They're not all problems, but understand what it is that we're trying to solve for and where we want to go, what the vision is of what we're trying to achieve, and then the best way to get there. So including multiple team members and colleagues, much like you do, I'm sure, in the classroom today, right? There's certain things you can do on your own, and that's fine. But when you're trying to solve something more massive, both an opportunity or a problem, it's better to get a team together that can contribute in different ways. It adds strength and diversity of insight and opinion to the dialogue and therefore the outcome.
Yes, it's definitely a team effort. So Susan, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And when I see you as a CEO of a company, I'm thinking, that's it. But I'm sure you have goals after this. And how do you plan to get there?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. My goals at this stage are really about ensuring that we at AMN and I personally continue to do more to make a greater impact through our work and through our personal time and resources. So certainly we do that through the great work we do for our clients, and we can continue to evolve and do more, but also in our communities. It's vitally important that we come together, again, with organizations such as yours, but also others, to help our local communities, even when it doesn't come into the sphere of our so-called business. It's just because it's the right thing to do, and we want to help those individuals to rise up and elevate to reach their potential, which is why, again, junior achievement is so amazing, because it really starts at some of the most important times in people's lives, and it helps to connect amazing young people with companies and organizations that can help open doors for them, help provide opportunities. So, 5 years from now, my goal would be we have broadened and deepened our impact in our communities locally, nationwide, and even internationally. We go down to Guatemala every year and do a medical and community development mission. I love joining our team and going down there every year. This year, we couldn't, unfortunately, with the pandemic, but right. I would hope that, for example, we can take that important work and expand it across Guatemala, but maybe also to other countries, so that we can take a model of helping in a sustainable way through healthcare, education, and economic sustainable support, and take that to other regions across the world. So my goals would be probably more community oriented, but the business helps enable that too.
Absolutely. So on a personal level, have you ever gotten a promotion or job that changed or taught you a valuable lesson?
Yes, I would say, when I became CEO at AMN, it was a very important step change for me in terms of the responsibility that came with that, but also the opportunity that came with that to influence at a greater level our culture, to help people around us, both within the company, but also in our communities. Before I became CEO, I was probably more focused on just running the business and ensuring that our team was successful, that we were the leader in our industry, and that we were the best that we could be. I didn't fully appreciate the opportunity that I could have to work with my colleagues and with great community leaders to take that impact and multiply it in so many ways. Again, I think I could have done it earlier in my career with different job promotions, and I would encourage anyone stepping into a role, particularly as you step into leadership roles, to view that as an opportunity to have greater positive influence and impact on others around you. It's not just about you being promoted into this new role and making more money and a new title. It's about the bigger impact that you can make and the difference that you can make through the role and position that you have.
Awesome. That's really awesome. So how would you say that, because I asked you earlier about what would you tell yourself, Susan, when you were in middle and in high school? If you would look back now, what would you say now to the students today? What's important as it relates to education or to a career?
So as it relates to education, certainly pour your heart into anything that you do, and that includes your education. I know this sounds like a cliche, but do the best you can, because it's going to set you up for greater opportunities down the road. And it's not all about the GPA, that's important, it is, but it's about all the holistic experience that you create while you're in school. It's about the extracurricular activities. It's about the teamwork. It's about the impact that you make. It's not all about the grades that you get. I know I might get some educators not happy with me saying that, but I can tell you from an employer standpoint, but also as a leader, I look holistically at the person and all the things that they bring to the organization, all the things that they bring as a colleague or as a friend. So, look beyond just the studies themselves and look at what other things you're passionate about and that you can get involved in. And that's true whether you're in high school or in college. Maximize the experience. I will say one of my regrets is that when I was in college, I needed to pay for college myself because my parents couldn't afford to pay for my college, which was fine. And so I did the math with my jobs, waitressing and whatnot, and I figured out that I had saved enough and could earn enough to get through college in 3 years. So I had to pack in all of my credits for a double major in 3 years. And I did it, but I feel like I perhaps missed out on the experience of being in college and all that that can provide for you. So I think if I were smarter, I would have figured out a way to actually string it out over 4 years rather than condense it down to 3,
Right.
because that experience that you get is so important, I think, as part of your journey. So don't shortchange it. Try to wrap your arms around all of it, not just focusing and sweating over, oh, I got this grade on this grade on that. Think of it as a holistic experience. And the same would be true with any job that you have or any career that you pursue. Yes, being excellent at what you do is important. I know there's a pride that comes in from getting high marks and good grades and a great performance review. We probably all want that, but think of it as a holistic experience and the relationships that you create, the impact that you make, the legacy that you leave along the way. Even if you may move on to another department or division, you want the people that you've left to actually feel as though you helped develop and give them opportunities before you moved on.
And with that being said, sometimes students, they may say, I don't really see how education and career and getting good grades connect. Explain to us what education, training, or certifications that you have acquired and how they connect to your daily work.
Absolutely. Well, I mentioned my undergraduate degree in economics and accounting, and that was hugely beneficial. Certainly led to my first couple of jobs, which required me to have an accounting degree, and it helped that I was super passionate about it as well. And then after I worked for a couple years, I actually went back and got my master's, my MBA part-time. I didn't have the opportunity to just stop work and go back to school full-time because, had to pay the rent. But I was able to go back part-time, and I'm so glad that I did because I learned more. And I think I even learned more because I was working, because I could apply what I was learning to the jobs that I was doing. And then certainly as I was eligible or a candidate for promotions and opportunities, it was very beneficial that I had that additional education and exposure with a master's degree. Particularly, I'd say, moving along my spectrum, I started, as I mentioned, in accounting. Eventually, I became head of finance. I also then oversaw all of AMN's operations, not the clinical element, but along the way, I took over marketing. So it had helped that I had some marketing courses along the way. I had some exposure to technology through my education. So when somebody had to take on the IT department, even though it was small at AMN, it was very helpful that I had that. And then when AMN was ready to go public as a company, it was very beneficial to have that finance education under my belt. Now, would I have not gotten the opportunities to be CEO? I probably still would have, but I think that my education set me up to be better prepared, and then a little bit more credibility along the way. But the preparedness is even more important than the credibility that the degree brings.
Awesome. So let me ask you, what is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
So much great advice over the decades. Probably my favorite comes from my dear father, who had 10,000 like kooky sayings that usually didn't make a lot of sense to me as a young girl. But later in life, I understood how valuable those nuggets of wisdom really were. And so one of them he would say is, if somebody were kind of talking in big words and, at a very high level, in making things more complex than they needed to be, he would say, could you break that down to cows, chickens, and taters for me? And when he would say this, I would kind of roll my eyes and go, what does cows, chickens, and taters have to do with anything? But now I get it. What he was really saying is, keep it simple. So many things in our life and in our work are so complicated. So don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. And particularly when you're working with, either personally or professionally, with other people, don't overcomplicate things. Keep your vision clear and simple, because it's going to be that much more powerful and that much easier for people to understand and follow and want to be a part of if you haven't overcomplicated it. So my team at AMN knows that it's one of my favorite sayings now, and I'm sure few people roll their eyes when I say it, but to me, it's very meaningful.
And I must admit, it's the first time I've heard that saying. The students have been putting questions in the chat, and so we want to thank you so far for everything that you've shared with them and this valuable information, and I know that they appreciate it. We have a question from Isabella, and she would like to know if you know any good ways that she can help out in the community because of what you said earlier about your future self, that you would have wanted to help in your community more.
Great question. Yeah, thank you. So, certainly doing anything with junior achievement is, would be extremely valuable, because there's so many aspects of leadership and teamwork that you can learn by being a part of the group. There are other great organizations. Your local food bank is always looking for volunteers, and that can be a fun way to do team building with other people. But then there are sometimes even planning jobs and different volunteer things that you can do with them that can help you learn more about the operations of what it takes to deliver. Anything that you can do also to be supportive, particularly right now, of families that are having difficulty. As you can imagine, there are a lot of families with small children at home. You all might even have some brothers and sisters. So anything you can do to help organizations to support those families during this time. One of the things we're doing at AMN right now is reading children's stories virtually to children, which is always good, right, to read to children. It helps promote their own passion and love of reading, but also, guess what, it gives the parents a break, because the parents might need to be working, and while you're reading, then they gives them a break to do other things. So those are just a couple of ideas. We have a fantastic community development team, and I'm sure they'd be very happy to share other ideas with you too.
And Isabella, that's a great question, that you're already thinking about how you can give back. Next question says, what effect has COVID had on your role as CEO and the way you manage Amn Healthcare?
Yes, that's a fantastic question, because I would have never dreamed, none of us would have ever dreamed we would be in this situation. And as I mentioned, we were mostly working out of offices. I was here in Dallas with an office of about 700 people. And so much of us just loved being, together and all the energy that comes. And then within a week, 3,000 people were working from home and sitting in front of their computer every day. And while there might be aspects of that that sound attractive, that you don't have to go into the office, there are things that you miss for sure. And as a leader in particular, it became necessary for us to learn to lead and engage with our team members in different ways. I used to be able to just walk up to someone or a team of people in an area and start chatting and asking them, what can we do better? What are some problems we can help solve? Now I have to find new creative ways to lead and listen in this environment. So I mentioned the connecting meeting that I have, trying to make sure that we're infusing those roundtable opportunities for team members that I don't get to come in contact with daily to actually ask me questions and for me to be able to listen to them. We have many more town hall meetings. We call them AMN Live, where we invite all team members to get on a program like this live and ask any question they want to ask. There's pre-submitted questions too. And then we have to engage with our leaders differently. We're actually doing a lot of training right now for our leadership team so that they can learn how to be great leaders virtually. It's different than being in person. So there are a lot of things that we have to learn and do differently. One of the other questions I saw here, which is sort of related, is what are some ways that you learned leadership skills? And how do you create opportunities to gain leadership skills? That is a fantastic question, because you have to constantly be growing and learning as a leader. If you think you have arrived as the best leader you're ever going to be, then you're done. You have to be constantly evolving and growing, because what great leadership looked like a year ago or 5 years ago probably isn't going to cut it today. Our team members are that much smarter, that much more diverse. They themselves have evolved and are more current on things that I'm having to catch up on. So as a leader, you have to constantly be seeking out ways to learn about leadership. I mean, I go to even virtual conferences. I read, I pay attention to what other leaders are doing, what other companies are doing, constantly looking for ways that we can be different kind of leader in this environment.
Thank you. And so what are you most proud of?
Gosh, as it relates to AMN, I'm most proud of the culture that we have and being known as an organization, which is essentially a group of people that passionately care about making an impact and making a difference. And that doesn't just happen by chance. That happens because we have phenomenal team members and leaders across the entire organization. It happens because we make it a priority for folks to know that we want to do the right thing, that we want to not only deliver to our customers, but we want to do the right thing in our communities. And so while we're not perfect, there's always more we can do every day. AMN does have a very strong and positive culture for wanting to make a difference and wanting to make an impact. And I'm probably most proud of that. Yeah, I'm proud that we're number one in our industry. I'm proud that we deliver good performance for our clients. That's essential every day. I'm proud that we serve patients, but it sort of starts with the people that we have wanting to make a difference themselves every single day. Personally, I'm of course very proud of my own family, my siblings, my parents, my children, my husband. They're just for me always a point of inspiration. As families are, there can be challenges too, but, by and large, they remind me every day just how grateful I am to be alive and be on this planet and able to make the kind of impact that we make.
Thank you. Susan, I noticed that I love that shirt you have on with Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yes.
And you've talked a lot about giving back and helping the community. How did you find your passion?
I think it was by, really, being surrounded by other amazing people that were making a difference and paying attention to that and going, oh my gosh, I can do more. I have this tremendous opportunity. Quite honestly, I have a greater opportunity in some ways because I am CEO of this incredibly positive company that, I can use our position in the industry, our position as a good corporate citizen to influence and affect positive change. And then I would see colleagues and friends out doing amazing things in the community, and they inspire me. So I don't think it was just one thing or one person. It was really, being fortunate to be surrounded by individuals who share that common passion. I do believe that we are put on this planet to help others. And we should use our time, our talents, and our resources every day to make sure we're doing the most we can. And it's hard because you're also trying to take care of yourself, your family, just graduate. There's basic things. And so it feels pretty daunting. But if you just, put it out there and put your effort into the things you're passionate about, I guarantee you will make a greater impact than you ever dreamed possible.
Thank you. I want to ask you about a comment that you made earlier, and it's also written here in the chat. We want to know more about being a butcher's daughter.
So, as I mentioned, I grew up in this little town of 100 people. I actually went to a county high school, which is why we even had 12 in our graduating class. But yeah, my dad ran the local butcher shop where, the local ranchers would bring in their cattle to be butchered for their own personal use. This wasn't a really commercial operation. It was a family-run business. But there again, it taught me a lot of things. I would get up in the morning and work with my dad and my brother, and then I would go to school. And then after school, maybe there were activities, and then I would go work at the Hungry Horse Saloon. And so it taught me the importance of hard work. I saw my dad work extraordinarily hard, and my mom too. My mom was a county clerk. And so they both instilled a very strong work ethic in all of us in the family. And not because, I suppose we had to do it, but it wasn't that. It was because you didn't want to be wasting your time. You wanted to be either helping others, doing something productive. My dad was notorious for being the one that folks in the community would call at 10 o'clock at night, the 95-year-old lady down the street who couldn't get her front porch light on, and she would call my dad and he would get out of bed and he would go help her figure out how to fix it. So that's the kind of environment that I grew up in. You worked hard, you tried to make a difference, and you were always there to help others.
Yes, being here, that's what we're here for, to serve. Speaking of hard work, how many days a week do you work and how many hours do you put in a day?
I don't really count them because, to me, my work and personal life are blended. And some of that comes from, I think, being CEO, but also having been with this incredible organization for so long that I don't really have boundaries. My family has always been a big part of AMN. And my AMN family has always been a big part of my personal life. So I, don't like start and stop the clock at a particular time. Now, I do make sure that I take time for myself and my family. I get up in the morning. I like clockwork. I go for a run pretty much every morning for about 45 minutes to an hour. I want to make sure I start the day taking care of myself, mentally, physically. And I also learned if I don't get it done in the morning, then the day might get away from me and I won't get it done later. And then I jump in to, my AMN family and the things that we're doing. That could end at 5, but it also could carry me into the evening, particularly before the pandemic. We would have a lot of events, community events and professional events or travel that I would need to do. And on the weekend, we, try to be available for one another. But at the same time, probably seems like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here, because while we sort of always want to be there, we don't want to have it be so encompassing that it prevents us from being present with our families and our friends as well. So there's this respect that we have for one another, and realizing that there are times when we may need to work on the weekend and be there for a client. We've had teams have to work 24 hours straight because there was a major strike. And if we didn't get the nurses there, the patients would have no one to take care of them. But at the same time, we know that those same individuals are going to need time off to be with their own family. So there's not like a clear-cut answer to your question. I apologize. But the more you can embrace your work family, I think, with your personal family, and vice versa, the more your work family embraces your personal life, the easier things are to juggle.
And no need to apologize for that, because there are times when we have to get the work done, but more importantly, we need to understand how to keep that work-life balance, because that is important as well.
Yes.
We have in the chat Ducella, and I hope I pronounced her name correctly. She has a question that says, can you share with us what has been one of the toughest decisions you have had to take on your current role?
Yes, Ducella. Oh, I love your name. It's absolutely beautiful. Yes, there have been several difficult decisions. So one of them, I would say, was about a decade ago when we went through the financial crisis as a country. If you're in high school, you were probably, 5, 6, 7 years old back then. So you might not be as seared in your mind, but when the country went through an economic crisis, it hit a lot of businesses negatively, including AMN. And our business declined rapidly. In about a year, we lost about 50% of our revenue, so cut in half. Never seen anything like it before. And so unfortunately, we had to make the decision to reduce our workforce because we just didn't have the demand for our business coming in. So doing that in the most dignified, respectful, kind way was very difficult. These are individuals that had helped us build the organization. They were great performers. They're amazing people. And yet we had to say goodbye for a period of time. One of my greatest joys is when those individuals were able to come back to us, which was a really good sign that while it was a very difficult decision that we had to make, we were able to do it in a way that preserved the relationship with those individuals, so that when business rebounded and we could bring them back into the AMN family, they wanted to come. So it's the sort of thing you never want to have to go through. But unfortunately, when you go through these disruptions, as many businesses are now with the pandemic, you sometimes have to make these difficult decisions.
Awesome. Well, Susan, we want to say thank you so much for your time today to spend with these young people, to give them some insight on opportunities in the future. I also would just like to thank the students that called in and submitted questions. Thank you to San Diego for joining in with us to make this happen. Just a big thank you to everybody that played a part in making sure that this Lunch and Learn series took place today. And I believe with that being said, we are at the top of the hour. And I want to thank everyone for your participation, and you have a wonderful day. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you. It was such an honor. So much fun. Thanks.